started. Welcome to your practice, to your mat. We'll just breathe for a little bit before we start moving. As you settle in here, I'll just try to be quiet and let you guide yourself through some peace and quiet, but simply breathing. Notice how you feel, tuning in and tapping into that, and finding some stillness in the body, the mind, and the soul. We'll stay quiet for a few minutes. Counting the breath can be a good tool for tapping into meditation and relaxing. Maybe making it a 6, 7, or 8 count rhythmic breath in and out. Maybe a 4 count is what's happening today. That's totally fine. And as you sit here quietly, maybe you readjust your posture. Maybe you're not comfortable and you want to find that really lifted sternum. So the center of the heart should have a little lift to it. If we're collapsing, then we're not quite optimal. So see if you can find that lift of the heart and the dropping down and back of the shoulders. And I did promise quiet, so stop talking. We'll let our breath talk. Creating some peace and quiet in your space, and we'll carry it with us throughout class today. Let's take a few more deep cleansing breaths before we get started. And if you would like to set an intention, now's the time. Maybe making a little dedication or prayer. Okay, we'll slowly wake ourselves up from our meditation. And we're going to extend our right leg long and pull the left heel in. Welcome, Kenny, to class. We just finished meditation. And we'll extend that right leg out straight. So aim your belly button over the right leg. See if you can kind of take your whole torso and turn it a little bit. So that right shoulder pulls back a little bit. And then we'll lead with our heart as we walk our hands down the leg for head to knee pose. I like to grab onto my leg and bend my elbows to pull my spine long over the leg. So we're not necessarily curving the spine or collapsing at all, but we're really lengthening our spine over that right leg. It feels good either way, but this way is a little bit better for our alignment, for our frame, for our spine. But you know what's best for you, so just listening to our body today and breathing. And maybe we let the head get a little bit heavy. So big stretch to start off class. Big stretch, a lot of sensation down the back of the right leg. All right, and we'll slowly lift our heart upwards. Lift the heart up, keeping your shoulders pointed forward over that leg. Awesome. Inhale, we're going to twist towards the left knee now. See if you can get your right hand on the outside of the left leg and take a little de-rotating twist away from the right leg. Some of us may be able to come down onto the forearms. And we'll stay for 3 more breaths. And then we'll lift our heart up and rotate back to center. Find both seat bones rooted. Let both seat bones really land so we can push down and lift up. Okay, and then we're just going to change legs. Left leg extends and the right heel pulls in. And then we'll aim our shoulders to face towards that left foot. When you're ready, taking a nice fold, hinging at the hips, maybe grabbing onto the leg, bending the elbows to pull your heart over that leg. And then maybe our head gets a little bit heavier as we stay here. And don't forget to let that breath flow. Always letting it flow in and out. A few more breaths. Keep leading with your heart. And then we'll slowly lift out of this. And then we'll inhale, twist over to the right, taking your hands to the other side of the right leg. And you may be able to come down onto the elbows, maybe not. Big twist. Hanging out in our posture as we find sustainability and comfort. At least doing our best to do those things. Three more breaths. Okay, and then we'll slowly come out of it. Inhaling up, back to center. Make sure we land both seat bones on the floor for support. Find a tall spine. And then we'll come into child's pose. If you need blankets, under the knees might feel really good, or in between your feet and your seat. Knees open, toes together. We'll start by reaching our arms forward and then settling the hips down. So now we're getting a heart and shoulder and chest opener in. Feeling that folding really through the back shoulders, the back body, the shoulder blades. There's a bit of a flexion in the back, upper back. So seeing if we can melt into the flexion, going backwards, which we don't normally do. Nice cleansing breath. Okay, we'll come to tabletop now. So we'll bring the shoulders over the hands, and you may want to walk the knees closer together. And we'll just maybe swish around a little bit, dropping the hips from side to side, circles over the wrists to warm up through our shoulders and hip joints. Opening up the fingers really big as we stretch the fingers, the hands, the wrists. Maybe we're hearing lots of noises in the bones. That's fine. And then we'll do a few cat-cows. Exhale, drop the head, lift the belly. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the head. Moving through a few times. And then we'll find a nice and neutral spine, somewhere in the very middle. And we're going to take our left foot and raise it up. So lift the left knee and stamp that left foot in a big flexed foot towards the ceiling. Try not to lean into that right hip too much. And we're just going to lift that left foot a few times. So it's sort of a backwards kicking. Maybe you want to count and do the same amount on each leg. I'm thinking 7 or 10. Make sure we're lifting that belly up. I'm totally collapsing in my belly. Keep it strong. All right, great. Come back to table. All right, let's take a child's pose before we do that on the other leg. Knees open, reaching the arms forward. Take the cleansing breath. And we'll come back to tabletop, hopefully having caught up with our breath, the present moment. Knees come a little bit closer together, and we'll take that right foot and stamp it on the ceiling as best we can and just kind of do some kicks. And maybe counting the same amount of kicks as you did on the other leg. Belly lifts up towards the ceiling. Try not to lean too hard into that left hip. All right, and then we'll take another child's pose. We're settling our hips down, reaching the arms forward. Let it go. Anything you're holding on to that's not useful, let it go. Okay, back to tabletop. We're going to thread the needle on each arm before we move into down dog. So we can reach that left arm up. Exhale, thread the needle. Dropping it down. Your right arm supports you. Your left hand presses down into the floor. Big stretch through the right shoulder. Sorry, the left shoulder. And we'll come back and reach that arm back up. Come back to table, other side. Big twist, big reach. Drop the head and the shoulder. Your left hand supports you this time, and your right hand pushes down into the floor. Three more breaths. And we'll spiral back up, pressing down firmly with the left hand, the right arm reaches. Awesome. And we'll come back to tabletop. We'll take downward facing dog. So curl those toes under, and we'll open the fingers really wide and set up for an awesome downward facing dog. Really pressing the shoulders towards the feet. pressing the heels towards the floor. I like to bend one knee and then the other knee. Maybe crack the toes by lifting up nice and high on your tippy toes. Lift that belly button up and in. And then we'll inhale, high plank pose. Exhale, chaturanga the hip back. Press the feet down. Lift the heart up, cobra pose or upward facing dog. And we're just going to rotate a little bit. So bring that right shoulder forward and then the left shoulder forward. Gaze back behind you. Just sort of a twisting and a turning here. Okay, and then we'll take a child's pose. Awesome job. You may want to bring those knees closer together this time, and our hands can go towards the feet. A very supportive, relaxing pose for after bending our back so much. So let yourself really relax here, let it go. Nice cleansing breaths. We'll stay for 5 more breaths. Okay, back to downward facing dog. Hopefully we weren't too tired from resting in that child's pose. Lifting the hips up and back, maybe getting a little bit more energy here, pedaling the feet. Okay, we're gonna step the right foot forward. Right foot comes all the way forward in between those hands. And then we're gonna turn the left heel down for warrior 2 feet. I like to take my right hand as I lift up. Take your right hand and press that right knee open, back away from you. And then we'll try and get both our hips to point towards the long edge of our mat. The right heel is lined up with the inside or the arch of the left foot. And you really want that opening of that right thigh. So you hopefully can feel a stretch through the inner right thigh. This is a hip opener. So getting nice and comfy here. You can bend both knees to kind of get that support. And then the left knee is straight and the right knee is bent. And then we're going to take the arms up. And then exhale, cactus arms or field goal post arms, but cactus arms they call it. And then we'll inhale, reach up. Try and keep your hips and back torso pointed towards where the left toes are pointed. And then exhale, try and touch those elbows behind the back. It's not going to happen, but we're just bringing those shoulders down and back. Inhale up, exhale back, cactus arms, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Let's do 2 more. Inhale, exhale, reach really, really high. Inhale, exhale. Great. All right, then we're just gonna take our right hand, reach it back, get a nice side body stretch. The left arm is resting on the left hip. Big side body, and then the other way, right elbow down, left arm reaches. Big side body. See if you can lift your heart up. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to bend that back knee to twirl ourselves back down to the floor. Take the hands back down, and then we'll step back, downward facing dog. Awesome job. Whew. Big full stretches today. Lots of sensation. Ride it out. Take it easy. Inhale, high plank pose. Exhale, slowly hit the deck. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, child's pose. And now we get to take a breather before we do that on the other leg. You can take whatever child's pose is working for you at the moment. Catch up with everything. So catch up to the present moments, body, mind, and soul. We'll take 5 more breaths here. I'm going to turn around so I'll be facing you for the other leg. And then we'll come to downward facing dog. Once again, lifting those hips nice and high. Press the shoulders towards the feet. Maybe crack the toes. All right, lift the belly up and we'll bring the left foot forward. So the left foot reaches so that it lands between the hands. You may need help from your arms, from your hands to kind of bring it up. And then we'll take our right heel and twirl it down. The right toes are facing the long edge towards the right. And then I like to take my left hand and stabilize that left leg, opening it up as I lift up. So we don't want the knee coming inwards, but we want it opening outwards. And then we try our best to square those hips so that they're facing the right edge, long edge of your mat. Trying our best to get comfy here. Back leg straight, front leg bent. And then we'll do our cactus arms a few times. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling. 2 more. Awesome. Great job. Give those arms a break. We'll take the right hand to the thigh, reach that left arm towards the back. Big side stretch through the left side body. Okay, and then we'll go the other way. Left arm down, right arm forward. Now stretching through the right side body, seeing if we can really lift our heart up. Okay, to come out of this, we'll just twirl ourselves back. Hands come to the floor, and we'll step the left foot back. Downward facing dog. Awesome job. Let it go in down dog. Take some really cleansing breaths. For the most part, our hard work, super hard work is over. Inhale, high plank pose. Exhale, slowly lower, hit the deck. Your knees can always come down first. And we're just gonna take a moment on our belly. So just come down to the belly and take a cheek. And we'll just take a moment here to recoup and gather some energy, some strength, some relaxation. Letting the breath flow. And so now take your other cheek to the mat. And it's time for child's pose. Back to a child's pose. Maybe knees together, maybe knees apart, maybe arms forward or hands towards the feet. We'll take a rest, giving our back some needed support. We'll take 3 more breaths here. Okay, our next posture is going to be pigeon pose, but we're going to get there from downward facing dog. You may want blankets towards the front of your mat for your upper leg bone from knee to hip. But we can come into it from downward facing dog. So lifting those hips up nice and high, find a really good downward facing dog. Bring the toes to touch. And we're gonna lift the left heel high for 3-legged dog. Our hips are square and you're getting a really big stretch through the back of the right leg. Press that heel away from you. Now bend the left knee and then stack your hips, gaze under the left shoulder. And now we're in a wild thing. Big stretch through the left side body. From here, we'll come back to 3-legged dog. So the hips square off. The leg straightens and the heel pushes away. And then we'll hug that left knee up and in. Hug it in and then send it back. We're just gonna do that once, twice. Inhale the knee in. Exhale, 3-legged dog. Okay, and then on the third one, we get to really relax. Hug the left knee in and then drop down onto that left hip. So of course that's optional. If you want to skip that today, I wouldn't blame you. So we'll bring that left knee forward. If your left hip feels like it's really high up off the ground, you can fold a blanket and kind of wedge something underneath that. Take a gaze back at the right leg. Make sure it's in a really nice straight line. And we can push the floor away from us at first. You may even want something to push your hands down onto to get a really big stretch through the right hip flexor. Big arch happening in the low back, so be careful. And then here we're going to just do some neck turns. So we'll take our left ear to left shoulder, right ear to right shoulder, and then drop the chin and kind of rock it from side to side. Kind of like the pendulum of a clock. And then we'll take our chin all the way back and tick tock from side to side. Big breath in, exhale, collapse, and rest on the floor in front of you. If you can rest your head on something, that can feel really supportive and amazing. And we'll just take a really nice long pigeon. So setting up for comfort. Maybe you didn't think you would need a blanket, but you do. Give yourself time to make changes, be comfortable. We'll stay for maybe 7 more breaths. All right, we'll slowly come out of it. So lifting your head, pressing the floor away, and we're just gonna sit onto that left leg and very, very slowly bring the right leg forward and extend both legs out in front of you. Take your hands behind you. We're just gonna give the legs a little bit of a shake. Rotate those ankles, wiggle the toes, and move the legs around. I needed to do this to crack my hip, so maybe we want to just kind of open and close that a bent knee like it's sort of a door or something. Just taking movements that feel right. All right, we'll do that on the other leg now. So we'll cross the ankles to sit forward and come back to our downward facing dog. Lifting the hips up and back, pedaling the feet, getting a nice, strong down dog. All right, now we're going to lift the right heel. So 3-legged dog with the left leg being stretched pretty intensely. Push the right heel away from you, hips are square. And then we'll bend that right knee and lift the right knee up, gaze under the right shoulder. Wild thing. Okay, back to 3-legged dog. Push the heel away from you. All right, that last bit of effort here, 3 or 2 at least. Tucks, inhaling, knee brings in, exhaling, it extends. 1, 2. Awesome. And then we get to, on the third one, drop it down. Pigeon pose. Awesome job. Take a gaze back at that left leg. Make sure it's straight. Make sure your right hip feels supported. And we'll push that floor away from us. Hips nice and square. And then we'll just do some rotations of the head and neck. Just finding what feels good. Opening up those pathways. Tick-tocking. And then we'll bow forward, relaxing it completely, coming down to the floor. You may want some support under your head. And we'll stay here for a few minutes. So setting up for comfort. Continue to let go as you let the breath flow. Okay, we'll take several more breaths before we come out of it. We'll slowly come out of it, lifting our head, our heart, sitting onto that right leg and slowly bringing the left leg forward. We're going to take seated forward fold. So I'm going to make sure I have a nice blanket to sit on. I'm just going to sit on a nice high blanket and extend my legs out in front of me. You can kind of move your seat meat out of the way. And do your best to find a tall spine, a lifted heart. If you feel like you're collapsing, I would sit on something even higher. And you can pull the toes back to begin here. Maybe point the toes once or twice. Notice how the core muscles kind of fire up a little bit, having to keep us nice and tall here. And we'll just take a fold forward. We can reach our arms up first. And then exhale, take your hands down. And then just like we did in the initial poses of class, the head to knee pose, we'll do the same thing where you grab onto the leg and then bend your elbows and try and pull the spine long. And then maybe some of us can reach our feet, maybe not. And we'll just take Paschimottanasana, intense stretch of the back body. So working to have a long spine first and foremost. And then maybe as we stay here, we're able to let the head get a little bit heavier. Continue to let the breath flow. We'll stay for 5 or 7 more breaths. Gently release and slowly lift up. Find find that tall spine once again. Notice how maybe this feels a little bit easier. We'll stay in staff pose or Dandasana for just a moment here. Noticing the benefits of that posture that we just did. Now for the last pose of the day, or of class I should say, we're going to do supported bridge. So I'm going to use my block and a blanket. If you don't have anything, I mean, you could at the very least use a pillow would help. And we're just going to slide it underneath our hips. So you want it in the middle of your mat. And your entire low back should be supported by our block. So you can sit down on the block or whatever you're using, and your low back is this space right here. You don't want it in your mid back or your low back. You want the block supporting the lowest vertebrae, so the tailbone and this whole sacrum area. And so you can just kind of scooch on down when you're ready. And we'll do feet on the floor, knees up for bridge. And maybe you don't have something handy right now, but maybe you find a nice big thick dictionary or something to use later or try another time. But to be able to have your hips nicely supported like this is so amazing for our back. And like I said, I can't stress enough, you just want that block as low down on our back as we can get it. So you want it just before it would be on the back of your thighs and your tush. So really low. And you can kind of pick the hips up and scoop them underneath, scooping those hips, and then let the belly get nice and soft. Even a thick rolled blanket would be perfect for something like this. We usually have something that we could slide under those hips. And we'll just hang out in bridge pose. You can take your hands to your belly. You can take palms up. You can also take cactus arms if we want to continue our heart opening. We'll settle into this supportive posture. And let the breath flow. It may feel good for some of us to experiment, see if you can straighten one leg and you get a nice stretch through the front of the hip. Take a few breaths and then do the other leg. Switching whenever you're ready. And maybe we straighten both legs at the same time for a really big hip opener. If there's a lot of pain, please don't do it. It might not feel good on the low back, in which case, just keep those feet on the floor. And then when you've had enough of that, we'll take our feet back to the floor, knees up. Maybe lift your hips up one time, scoot them underneath, and settle back into our bridge pose once again. Supported bridge. We'll hold for several more breaths before we come out and enter Shavasana. All right, we'll come out of it. Slowly lift your hips and slide your support out from underneath you. And hug your knees into your chest one time, rocking from side to side. And do whatever feels good in your body before you come into corpse pose, Shavasana. Maybe you take a little happy baby. Whatever's working today. But we'll extend the legs long, ankles flop open, hands open up, palms upwards, arms and legs really nice and heavy. And we get to surrender. Notice the firmness of the floor supporting you completely. Melt into the floor. Let go of effort, let go of trying. Notice where your skin is touching the air. And let yourself get light and fluffy and soft in all of those places. Remember for a moment what it's like to feel tense and tight and stressed out. And now let a wave of peace and warmth and relaxation be pulled over you and melt into that feeling. Let your head be nice and heavy. The skin of the face soft. Relax the soles of the feet and the palms of the hands. Relax the back of your neck and your throat. Relax your jaw. letting yourself be supported and letting go. Absorbing all your hard efforts from class today. And of course, witnessing and watching the breath flow non-stop. And we'll begin to deepen the breath. Draw the head from side to side. Wiggle the fingers and the toes. Lick the lips, the teeth. And then roll to the right side of your body, resting your head on your arm like a pillow, coming to the sleeping position. Holding on to any positive effects from class, holding those close to your heart. And then we'll sit up nice and slow. You can find your blanket to sit on once again. And we'll close class with just a moment of meditation. Enjoying how we're feeling after class, finding a tall spine, and noticing that breath. Maybe even bringing a smile to the lips to inspire joy, even if that's not quite how we're feeling. Sometimes just smiling helps. I'm going to Om. You can join me or simply listen in. Big inhale. Bowing your heads in gratitude and namaste.